Something is happening in amateur radio emergency communications, and most people aren't paying attention. Not because it's not important, but because it's happening quietly, on paper, in committees, behind acronyms. In Vermont, RACES is being sunset. In other states, ARRL's participation is collapsing. And across the country, experienced volunteers are walking away. Not because they don't care, but because the system is pushing them about. This video is about what happens when bureaucracy replaces boots on the ground and why emergency management may not realize what it's losing until it's gone. Everybody, welcome back to Ham Shack TV. I'm your host, Josh A4WX. Make sure you please hit that like and subscribe button down below. Certainly helps the channel grow and bring you more and more content. So hit that like and subscribe button. Thank you very much. I received an email from a viewer, an ARRL's assistant emergency coordinator and RACES participant, and I hope I'm pronouncing this correctly, Onondaga County, New York. He's not a complainer. He's not a YouTube warrior either. He's been licensed since 2016 and actively serving public events, drills, and real world support. And what he describes isn't isolated. It's a pattern. Let's take a look at the email here. And I'll conceal his identity just to be on the safe side for him. But Josh, I'm a new listener and subscriber to your channel. One of my fellow hams pointed me to your channel in regards to the Vermont RACES sunset. Since I have been watching some of your content, I'm an ARRL ARRL's AEC for Onondaga County, and been a ham participating in public service since I first got my license in 2016. I also participate in our local RACES group in our county. I want to bring a theoretical, proven, and reoccurring situation to your attention that is happening in Onondaga County. This has to do with membership in RACES, in ARRLs and RACES, and getting volunteers to support triathlons, marathons, events, etc. Also, to throw on top of that, these new ARRLs plan guidelines in parentheses there, or not parentheses, quotes, I should say. First, we are and have been experiencing a decline in amateur radio operators assisting with these events in our county. There is no documented tangibility that is the root cause. From what our leadership can glean, it is fear of commitment and initiative that may be the cause. Second, our state seems to be haphazard in support of RACES as a whole. On a county level, we are supported, but recognition at a state level is a void. A few years ago, I, along with my RACES radio officer, had submitted for our Oxcom credentialing. Took all those classes required and paperwork sent off. Our county RO, not quite sure what RO is, maybe radio officer, worked in public service more than I and had credentials with public service agencies. Sadly, he was denied this credential, but I was given this card, even though our documents submitted were similar. Something is drastically wrong with this situation. When I asked these questions, they were sent into a void. Our state does not drill accurately with county participation at a state level and is wildly unwieldy when it comes to requesting amateur radio assistance. It appears we are, quote, not needed, and their network of systems has several backups, so they say. Third, our Western New York section has undergone an ARRL section management change. Communications with this leadership is nil from my point of view. When inquiries were sent into our SEC via emails and phone calls, there was no reply. Our emergency coordinator has fought with this same struggle and idealistically given up on any sorts of status, as no feedback has ever been received. On the same front, our county RO has this same issue. Fourth, I came across this new credentialing scheme from the ARRL for areas requiring membership to conform to a vastness of courses in which are required for areas participation. As I am in this county leadership, along with these others, I see that we all do not conform to these new guidelines, but have taken a plethora of courses, and all of us are Oxcom credentialed. Most of our membership have not taken any of these courses, but they are very competent amateur radio operators. If our leadership hands are forced to take these courses for volunteer organization and expect our membership to follow suit, I guarantee we will lose a majority of our membership, requiring membership to ARRL of full and active status was a straw that literally seems to be like a money grab. With several of your videos about dwindling membership in ARRL, and they want more participation, certification for Aries activation, this seems very off-putting. He gives a link here. Ask me what my take is on all of this. Could this be of interest to you and your subscribers? With Vermont's EM leadership exercising indulgence to ignorance, I wonder if there will be a ripple effect that will cascade to other states. Only time will tell. Honestly, I feel as though this is spiraling downwards. I appreciate the email. You know who you are. Thank you for sending me an email. And you bring up a lot of interesting points here. A whole lot of interesting points. First, let me show folks what he is referencing in terms of Vermont. Pull this up here. Here is the Vermont Department of Public Safety, Vermont Emergency Management, from their website, vem.vermont.gov. Vermont Emergency Management has formally sunset the Radio Amateur Civil Emergency Service, RACES program, effective November 1st, 2025. Despite this, VEM retains overall responsibility for coordinating communications support during disasters and emergencies. Your radio operator skills and expertise remain critical in our state's preparedness, and we encourage former RACES volunteers to continue their service by joining the state's Medical Reserve Corps, MRC, program under the Vermont Department of Health. The MRC is a national program under the Administration of Strategic Preparedness and Response, ASPR, which brings together medical and non-medical volunteers with public health and healthcare focused mission to improve communities outcomes for people during emergencies. All right, so I won't read the rest of that there. That gives you a little background on what he's talking about with the Vermont situation. So there's a lot to unpack here. Let's talk about declining volunteer participation. It isn't laziness. Across counties, hams are no longer showing up for marathons, triathlons, and public events, the very places where emergency communication skills are practiced. Leadership doesn't have a clean answer as why. It's not a lack of interest. It's fear of commitment without support. And we can say that. At one point, I personally was a member of Aries, specifically in Loudoun County, Tennessee. And I honestly felt like there was absolutely no way in the world that Aries was going to be ever called up. We had a tornado impact portions of the county. I called my EC. He wasn't even being proactive. He's like, if they need us, they'll call us. They'll need us, they'll call us. There was no power in that part of the county for a long, long time. Did they call us up? No. I know somebody that is, I forget what his title is, but I know somebody that is big into that same area, that same emergency manager's office now. And I do know that there is the opportunity for them to be called up. But I'm going to be honest with you. I don't think a lot of emergency management agencies take ham radio seriously anymore. I don't. Frankly, a lot of radio officers in county EMAs are also hams, so they have the redundancy systems already built. You know, most counties, they don't have just one repeater for their sheriff's department. They have multiple repeaters. They also can talk simplex. These things have been thought of. I'm not down in the ARRL program, and I'm not down in the RACES program, but I am not convinced that these programs are still relevant in 2026. And that talks more about the volunteers. Fear of being locked into rigid systems with no feedback. That says a lot. Fear of volunteering into a black hole. When you stop valuing people's time, they stop giving it. And I think a lot of people silently don't think that the EMs are going to give any, they're going to have any support for these ham radio programs. Now, RACES is being undermined at a state level. And I'm not saying every state, but some states. On a county level, RACES may still work in some counties. But at a state level, recognition is evaporating. Credentialing is inconsistent. Oxcom approvals feel arbitrary. Paperwork disappears into silence. In one case described to me, two nearly identical credential situations were submitted. Only one was approved. One was denied. Why? No explanation. You see that in the gentleman's email. There's no appeal, no feedback. That's not emergency management. That's dysfunction. That may also be politics. Folks, when you're getting the government involved, politics is rampant. Absolutely rampant. If you can't credential your most experienced people fairly, you won't have anyone left to credential. Now let's talk about the ARRL leadership disconnect. He says in Western New York, new ARRL section leadership took over and then nothing. Emails unanswered. Phone calls ignored. Emergency coordinators and radio officers effectively ghosted. When leadership stops communicating, volunteers stop trusting. And when trust is gone, organizations hollow out fast. You know, it's becoming bureaucratic. A lot of red tape. Now, he mentions in his email to me, do you have to be an ARRL member to be a part of a part of ARRL? I don't know that for sure. But if that's the truth, that's a terrible idea. An absolute terrible idea. I'm actually looking here on the ARRL's website, and I'm not seeing anything that vehemently says you have to be a. Okay, according to their website, according to the ARRL website, and I'll share that here. ARRL membership requirements. Every licensed amateur, regardless of membership of ARRL or any other national organization, is eligible to apply for membership into ARRL. So this is still on the ARRL website. This right here. So with that being said, considering this has a 2025 mark, unless something has changed very, very recently, that is not true. You do not have to be an ARRL member to be a member of ARRL. That may be the case for RACES, but I just don't know. And beyond that, and I may be ignorant in this, but frankly, I don't see a difference between RACES and ARRL. I just don't. I know RACES gives you maybe a little more clearance, so to speak, but we're getting lost in the weeds here with this stuff. Let's be blunt. Most ARRL volunteers are already Oxcom trained, FEMA ICS trained, highly competent operators, actively serving the communities. But forcing them into additional unpaid mandatory coursework or threatening removal isn't professional. It's going to drive people away. Volunteer organizations live and die on goodwill. Once it feels like a paywall or a compliance regime, the volunteers are going to leave. Vermont's decision to sunset RACES isn't just a local issue, it's a signal. Emergency management agencies increasingly believe we have backups, we have redundant systems, we don't really need amateur radio anymore until they do. ARRL, RACES, and Skywarn aren't backups to backups. They are human systems that work when infrastructure fails. You don't replace people with policy binders. Here's the irony, though. Skywarn still works because it's practical, it's trusted, it's locally integrated, it values people over paperwork. When tornadoes hit, Skywarn is still called. That's something that should tell us something. So use it or lose it isn't a slogan, it's a warning. If emergency managers stop exercising amateur radio, if leadership stops listening, if volunteers are treated like liabilities instead of assets, then amateur radio emergency services won't be taken away. They'll just simply fade out. And when the day comes that everything else fails, there won't be anyone left to answer the call. This isn't anti-ARRL. This isn't anti-ARRL. This is a plea to fix what still can be fixed. So again, that's going to end my notes of this, but I want to know what your thoughts are. Let's be candid. Let's not be hateful. I've seen some of you jerks in the comments that want to talk about how I read. If you don't like how I read, hit the next button. I don't need to see your comments on that. But this video is a call to attention. I want to know what you guys think. Your honest opinions. Is ARRL or RACES still relevant today? If SHTF, and you ought to know what SHTF, if that happened, would your ARRL group or would your RACES group be called out? Would they? Honest opinion, get rid of the politics, take off the ARRL badge for a minute. Would you really be called up? I really would like to know that. What do you think? Drop a note down in the comments. Guys, I can't thank you enough for watching Jack TV. Subscription and all that good stuff. If you haven't already, make sure you hit that subscribe button down below. Also give the video a thumbs up. That way YouTube knows to push it out to more people to see. And if you have something you want me to talk about on Ham Shack TV, send me an email, josh@aa4wx.com. Again, that's josh@aa4wx.com. Love hearing from you guys. This is a second video in a row that has been in response to an email, and I would love to feature you on Ham Shack TV. Thanks for watching, everybody. Drop a comment in the comments. We'll see you in the next one. AA4WX, WSCB 693.